Christian greetings to all our valued listeners and viewers throughout the whole world, more particularly to all Shepherd's Rod believers, and most especially to our beloved brothers and sisters in the United States of America. Special greetings to our brethren in Colorado, our brethren in Georgia, Fiji Island, Mexico, Spain, in Africa, to the United Kingdom, and also to our brethren in Australia. And to the rest of the 144,000 living saints scattered abroad, greetings. May the good Lord bless you, brothers and sisters. This is our episode number 5 in the subject, the 42 months prophecy. And that 42 months is recorded on Revelation 11 verse 2. The last verse concerning the subject on Revelation chapter 10. And accordingly, in track number 5 on page 100, says, events to take place just before the seventh trumpet sounds. Then the quotation is Revelation chapter 10. So, the particular events to take place before the seventh trumpet sounds. First of all, it is pertaining to the events recorded on the subject, Revelation chapter 10. And the Shepherd's Rod declared clearly in 2TG number 14 on page 16, saying, the subject of chapter 10 ends with the second verse of chapter 11. The verse which brings us to the time of the measuring, numbering of the people, which obviously is the numbering of the 144,000 recorded on Revelation chapter 7 verse 3 to 8. For they are the only numbered company of people in the thread of prophecy. Thus it is that chapters 10, including verses 1 and 2, from chapter 11, begins at the time of the end and ends with the numbering of the 144,000. So, according to our reading, the climactic point of the subject recorded on Revelation chapter 10 is the numbering of the 144,000. Obviously, therefore, the last event recorded on Revelation chapter 10, before the seventh angel begins to sound, is the numbering of the 144,000. According to this reading, the numbering of the 144,000. Now, hoping this time I could be able to explain this subject in a more detailed manner. Now, I would like to remind again that Revelation chapter 9, chapter 10, and 11, these 3 chapters are the chapters concerning the subject, the trumpet study. And concerning the subject of the trumpets, according to the Shepherd's Rod, it is symbolical prophecy. Therefore, it could not be understood in literal aspect. It is symbolical prophecy. According to track number 5, page 26, and track number 5, page 41, by which the Shepherd's Rod says that if every term is not symbolical, then how could we be able to differentiate those which are, or those which are symbolical and those which are not? And how shall we define the truth? So that reading completely shows that every term in the subject, the 7 trumpets, it must be symbolical prophecy. But chapter 9, chapter 10, and 11, these 3 chapters in the book of Revelation is pointing to the subject, the last 3 woo trumpets. Although we have a subject, the last 3 woo trumpets. But at this time, we are focusing our attention to the last verse that pertains to the subject on chapter 10, which is the verse 2 on chapter 11. By which, according to the reading in 2TG 14:16, that is the climactic point of the subject on Revelation chapter 10, the numbering of the 144,000 living saints. Therefore, that is the last and the final event recorded on chapter 10 before the seventh angel begins to sound, according to track number 5, page 100. Now, the second thing that we need to remember, that in the subject, the seven trumpets, let us carefully differentiate the groundwork and the particular object in view. We read that several times. Track number 5, page 32, and track number 5, page 34, that fulfilled prophecies are employed by the scriptures to serve only as the groundwork for that prophecy which is yet to be fulfilled. And third, the particular object in view is in the judgment that pertains to the living. Logically, because according to 2 TG 12:30, saying, moreover, the revelation is to be more fully understood during the judgment of the living. If the particular object in view is in the judgment that pertains to the dead, then there is no reason for God not to unfold the entire book of Revelation unto them. But the mere fact that the promise that the revelation is to be more fully understood during the judgment of the living shows that there are the people by which the book of Revelation is originally designed. The same with the statement in 1SR Pocket Edition on page 58 saying, but now at the appointed time, He Himself reveals their significance to the very people for whom they were originally and especially designed. And that very people, according to 1SR Pocket Edition, page 73, they are the people that will no longer to taste death, the living saints, the 144,000 living saints. And the mere fact that the subject on Revelation chapter 10, the climactic point, is the numbering of the 144,000, according to 2 TG 14:16. Therefore, the subject is concerning the living themselves. So that's what it means in Jezreel letter number 2, page 2, saying that the judgment for the living is pertaining the living themselves, the message bearers. And that is why in comparison there is no comparison whatsoever. And accordingly, in General Conference Special, page 39, it says, for the angel is not sent by God, or the messenger was not sent by God to explain what does the judgment to do to the dead, but what it is to do to the living. And in 2 TG number 11, page 13, saying, I say more important truths because they are concerning the living themselves, concerning those whose own cases are to be weighed in the balances, that is in the heavenly sanctuary. Those who personally are to be judged either as sweet or as tares, either as good fish or as bad fish. Or in other words, if there is people upon this earth that they will spend living interest in studying Revelation chapter 10, that's the great subject on Revelation chapter 10, it must be the candidates to be among the living saints, 144,000. So the admonition saying in Ben BC 969, strive with all your power that God has given us to be among that special number 144,000, is to study our own cases. And I think it is one among those subjects that very important unto us because it is explaining our own destiny. So we need to carefully study this subject. Now, we already explained that Revelation chapter 10, there must be groundwork and particular object in view. And the groundwork is first pointing to William Miller. And it is even more pointing to the last 4 verses, Revelation 10, verse 8, 9, 10, and 11, that he ate the little book, which is the book of Daniel, sweet as honey in his mouth, but became bitter in his belly. And we know that it points out to the great disappointment. Now let's read 2 TG 15, page 3. It says, there is but one book in the Bible that has had to be opened, and that is the book of Daniel, Daniel 12 verse 4. And since the first thing which the angel did was to open the book, the analysis proves that he actually appears on the scene at the commencement of the time of the end, the time the book was to be opened, Revelation 10 verse 2. And we know that it points out to William Miller, the angel recorded in Revelation 10, but that is the groundwork. Now, I would like to read first track number 5, 100 and 101. It says, "This mighty angel, he who set his right foot upon the sea and his left on the earth, and who instructed John to eat the book, has been long understood to represent the message which was proclaimed on both land and sea worldwide by William Miller and his associates." So, we need now to study closely, brothers and sisters, this very important subject. To repeat again, now, we already proven with absolute fact that it points out to the Millerites movement. Now, I would like to read to us our page 97. "But as the disappointment came in 1844, through the misunderstanding of what was to transpire at the end of the prophetic period, the movement created by Miller came to its end." The movement created by Miller ended in October 22, 1844. Everybody knew that the Millerites movement is called the Philadelphian Church. We need to always remember that. To read track number 2 on page 30 and page 33. Track number 2, page 30. "The foregoing chain of facts surrounding the first 3 symbolical chariots shows that the series of gospel events, which they comprehend, terminated with the Millerite movement in 1844 AD. And the additional fact that the white color of the horses also denotes purity. So it denotes purity. Shows that the third chariot is symbolical of the church, which of all the 7 churches is the only one that is white without condemnation, the Philadelphian Church." Revelation 3 verse 7. And track number 2, page 33 and page 34. So it says here, of all the 7 churches in Revelation chapter 2 and 3, only the Philadelphian, the Millerite Church, did not run afoul the same satanic practices. Ever true to God, it closed its brief but spotless career in 1844. Its appointed destination, having lived its entire life under the personal supervision of its founder, it was never new modeled, thus being without condemnation, as perfectly illustrated by the third chariot and its white horses. So that is the Millerites movement, which is represented by the Philadelphian Church. Now let us read again the Advent Review, saying, "The Philadelphian Church, not a condition, came forth in 1844. Let us go to the next. Beautiful Philadelphia was born, not buried, in 1844. Why is it that the Philadelphian Church, it was born in 1844, not buried, according to the reading, in which it seems contradicting to SR page 97 that the Millerite movement ended October 22, 1844. But in that reading, declared clearly that the Philadelphian Church in October 22, 1844, it was born. And then it says, and she goes through to the end, to the remnant, that is pointing to the last generation of men. And it says, the straight testimony to the Laodicean is that the church militant is not the church triumphant. So we need to always remember that the Laodicean church is a militant church and it is not the church triumphant. Then let us go to the next paragraph. It says, to belong to the 144,000, we must join the church triumphant. So if you want to belong the 144,000, you need to join the church triumphant, brothers and sisters. That is the admonition given. So this is the description of the church triumphant. 1 TG, number 51. On page 10, here we see that the church militant is in reality the church which is militant against advancing truth. Advancing truth is pointing to the present truth. And that the church triumphant is the church which marches on with the progress of truth. So, I think the description is easy to determine what is the church militant and the church triumphant. The church militant, they are those who stand against the present truth. They are those who hinder the present truth, who are fighting against the present truth. But the church triumphant, they are those who continually accept the progressive revelation of present truth, joyfully and gladly accept it. And accordingly, in track 14, page 43, it says, the urgent lesson here to be learned is that those who are ever progressing, keeping pace with the march of truth, are the only real Christians. The only real Christians. In page 38, track number 14, for to know their God aright through the Son, and to know their church aright through timely truth, is what brings life eternal. So that is very plain. Because according to 2SR 125, God's church is well marked in every generation in obedience to present truth. Now let us go back to our main subject. We already proven with absolute fact that the groundwork, the photograph of that movement in Revelation chapter 10 is the Millerites movement, which is the Philadelphian church, which is the triumphant church, or the photograph of the triumphant church. I would like to read this reading in track number 2 on page 18. It says here, wherefore, let us praise God that now within our reach is the glory of the church triumphant. When will the church really becomes God's dwelling place? Of course, the question is pointing to the time. When? When will the church really become God's dwelling place? By human effort, it is as impossible to bring about such a change as it is to dry up the ocean. So it says that such change by human effort, no, it is impossible. Or the absolute answer is that only God can do it. Only God can do it. But when He does, He will certainly make a clean work of it. I would like to bring to you first the prophecy in Isaiah 66, verse 1 and 2. Let's read 1 TG 45 on page 12. Isaiah 66, verse 1 and 2. We are to study the 66th chapter of Isaiah. What is that last 13 chapters in the book of Isaiah? Because that is the last chapter, chapter 66. I would like to read first 1SR page 135. These 13 chapters of Isaiah, meaning from Isaiah 54 to Isaiah chapter 66. These 13 chapters of Isaiah are one continuous letter written for the church. Though they had been in the Bible for many centuries, they were intended for us at this present time, instead as a direct epistle to the church now. The 54th chapter is the beginning of the letter, and it ends with the 66. So, Isaiah 66 is the last chapter of that letter, which is directed to the church. But what church? What church does Isaiah 66, that message is directed? Because according to the Old Symbolic Code, 2 Symbolic Code, number 10, page 4, it says, consequently, the church from 1844 to the close of provision is divided into two sections. Before the loud cry, so the church before the loud cry and the church in the time of the loud cry. The latter of which will, by comparison, be far superior to the former in spirituality. In fact, there is no comparison between the two. Hence, those who cannot tell in which one of these stages the church now is, must be in great darkness. It seems that passage, it is just written this year, 2020. Because in reality, the church in the time of the loud cry did not as yet exist in the days of B.T. Houghton. And the shepherd says here in 2SR 256, saying, it is remarkable to note the perfect grammatical order of the words at the time of their application, clearly dividing the word of truth as though it were written just at the time the prophetic words are revealed. That's why I've said that into Symbolic Code number 10, page 4, it seems that it is just written this year by saying that now, the word now. To repeat again, according to that reading into Symbolic Code number 10, page 4, the church was divided into two sections. The church before the loud cry and the church in the time of the loud cry. And we proved several times that the church before the loud cry is the Seventh-day Adventist Church, which is antitypical soul. So let us read again in track number 8, page 47 and 48. Why David a type? Inevitably, because he is the only one who perfectly fits the antitype, the leadership in the time of the loud cry of the third angel's message. So what is the leadership in the time of the loud cry of the third angel's message? The house of David. Then it says, this being so, then it necessarily follows that Saul, the first king who reigned over Israel and who was largely responsible for the early experience of David's life, is a type of the church leadership in the period preceding the loud cry. The leadership which was raised up in 1844. And for the sole purpose of gathering the 144,000, the first fruits of the kingdom. In its case, type perfectly matches antitype. So the statement is very clear and plain that the church that had been raised by God in 1844, which is the Seventh-day Adventist Church, is antitypical soul. And the church in the time of the loud cry of the third angel's message is represented by David, the eighth church in the New Testament succession, by which the shepherd's rod made it so plain that church will not come into being not until the succession of his seven antitypical brothers will pass one by one. Let us read again, answerer number 1, page 33. And just as David, the eighth son of Jesse, was not chosen until the succession of his seven brothers had one by one passed in review. So the house of David, Zechariah 12 verse 8, Testimonies volume 5, page 81. The church freed from the tares, the eighth church in the New Testament succession, was not to come into being until the succession of seven had passed one by one. And it's very important that we need to completely resolve the issue. Who are they? The antitypical seven brothers of David. If you say Seventh-day Adventist Church, then that is the statement into Symbolic Code number 10, page 4, is even more reality that we are in a great darkness because Saul is not a brother of David. The last church, the golden candlestick in Revelation chapter 3, which is the Laodicean, which is the Seventh-day Adventist Church, it is called antitypical soul according to the shepherd's rod. 1TG number 6, page 32, truth is truth and sense is sense. Let us have them both. Or in other words, there must be seven antitypical brothers of David. And that's why in 2SR 255, the types are worked out to expose the error, so that the honest ones will shun the devil by embracing the facts and by walking in the light. And that is why the shepherd's rod called it in 2SR 267 that the types are the great searchlight. Or in other words, in 1SR Pocket Edition, page 73, so completely disarming the enemy of souls. The great designer of these typological truths leaves the reader free to make his own choice as to whether he will continue in the darkness or come out into the light of the Lord, no longer to wonder what church to join or what is truth and what is error. So, our Almighty God, the great designer of these typological truths, employed these typological truths to completely disarm the enemy of souls. It is worked out to expose the error. Now, in track number 2, on page 31, it says, all seven of these antitypical churches. So there must be seven typical churches and seven antitypical churches. And the shepherd's rod admonishes us in 1TJ 47:15.
It says, now, if never before, we should see that where there is a type, there is also an antitype. And that where there is no type, there is no truth. I will not be weary to remind us that the devil had been able to successfully confuse the written word of God. To us, our page 10. While the enemy has succeeded in confusing the written word of God, God lightens the earth with His glory by these symbolic revelations, and by which He discloses the entire truth and uncovers the traps of the devil. Thus, through types and symbols, He makes wise the simple and confounds the prudent by showing that where there is no type, there is no truth. What does it mean with that reading? The same with the statement in 2SR 288. Written words can be easily misconstrued, but symbols, types, cannot. Thus making the wise, the learned, and the unlearned to immediately distinguish the difference between truth and error. Or in other words, the only medium employed by God to defeat the enemy is the typological truths, symbolical truths, and parabolical. These three chosen mediums are very powerful. The same with the statement, right, in 1SR 232, that by number 7 and number 3, that is the number given by God to ascertain scriptural truth. But in this study, it is number 3, represented by the Trinity. Now let us go back again to our reading in 1TG 45, page 12. The servants mentioned in this reading is not the Seventh-day Adventist leadership, which is antitypical soul, but it points out to the 7 antitypical brothers of David, the antitypical Laodicea. Whether you believe it or not, the truth will remain truth. The same with the situation in the days of Galileo Galilei, according to track number 5, page 85 and 86. That their fighting against the truth did not make it the earth flat, because the truth remained. The earth is round. And it says in track number 5, on page 86, as a matter of fact, trying to obscure the light on any other Bible truth will in no way darken or doom it, but only darken and doom himself. We can easily understand that the movement that had been raised in 1930 to 1955, that is antitypical Jesse, the father of David. That is our spiritual father. That movement from 1930 to 1955. Therefore, those movements that arose from 1955 onwards must be the antitypical brothers of David. Let us read again 1TG 45 on page 12. It says, we are to study the 66th chapter of Isaiah. In this chapter, the Lord speaks to two groups of servants. The servants up to the cleansing of the sanctuary, Daniel 8:14, up to the judgment for the living, the purification of the church, the time in which they are found smiting their fellow servants, eating and drinking with the drunken. The other servants are the servants thereafter, to hear what the Lord has to say to His former servants. As the time of the cleansing approaches, we shall begin the study with the first 2 verses of the chapter, Isaiah 66, verses 1 and 2. Who are they, the servants mentioned here? By which it says, the mighty Esau's and the unpretentious Jacob's, the upper part. Who are they? This mighty Esau, by which their boundary line is up to the judgment for the living. According to this reading, the cleansing of the sanctuary, the purification of the church, by which at that time they were smiting their fellow servants. They were fighting against each other. It could not be the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Why? Because they were already rejected by God as His servants in 1930. But these servants, they were discharged by God. They were rejected by God in the period of the purification of the church, the judgment for the living. That is very plain. in 1 TJ 45, page 12. You can read two symbolic code, number 10, page 6 and 7. It's saying demoted but not yet cast out. And you can read in that reading that the Seventh-day Adventist leadership were already rejected by God in 1930. Although they had been given 1 year to make good, but after the expiration of that 1 year, they were rejected by God as His servants. Demoted. God no longer recognized the Seventh-day Adventist leadership as His ministry. Therefore, we can easily understand that from 1930, the ministry recognized by God as His is the This Day organization. And that is our spiritual father, antitypical Jesse. But how about after B.T. Hotep died? The commencement of the period of the 7 antitypical brothers of David. Prophecy cannot be mistaken. All of them pass one by one. Now, I would like to read again 1 SR on page 60. Change of names. Both Esau and Jacob represent two sinful classes. Esau by the color of his skin and Jacob by his name. The names of both were changed. Jacob because he coveted something worthwhile. Esau because of lust. Jacob's name meant deceiver. The name Esau in Hebrew, Heri, which symbolically would be honored, as previously explained, means he that finishes. Note the remarkable meaning of the name, signifying the class given the privilege to finish the work. Then the quotation is Revelation 3 verse 14 to 16. Who are they? The angel of the church of the Laodiceans. What does angel represent? Ministry. Now the question is that, is it the ministry of the typical Laodicean? Have they been given the privilege to finish the work? Let the shepherd's rod speak of itself. Here in 2 TG number 15, page 6. Thus it was that the first Advent movement was reorganized and renamed Seventh-day Adventist. The Seventh-day Adventist organization, therefore, will not finish the work. There is no divine task committed by God to the Seventh-day Adventist Church to finish the work. Therefore, that leadership, but was given the privilege to finish the work, is none other than the antitypical Laodicean. Who are they, the antitypical Laodicean? What does it mean by the word Laodicea in the book of Answerer? Laodicea means people declaring judgment. Answerer number 1, page 11. The Greek words, two compound words, lau and diki, people declaring judgment. Think it thoroughly, brethren. It is easy to understand that the Seventh-day Adventist Church is the typical Laodicean. Here in 3 symbolic code, number 2, page 11. The fact that most Seventh-day Adventists refuse to investigate and are satisfied that they have all the truth and have need of nothing is further proof that they need the message, and that they are typical Laodiceans, and that they are typical Laodiceans. Who are they, the antitypical Laodiceans? It's easy to understand. That is the Davidian. Therefore, the Davidian are divided into 3. First, antitypical Jesse. Second, the 7 antitypical brothers of David. The last, David. The leadership in the time of the loud cry of the third angel's message. Track number 8, page 47 and page 48. Now let us go back again to our reading in 1 TG 45. It says, page 12. The other servants are the servants thereafter, to hear what the Lord has to say, His former servants, as the time of the cleansing approaches. Remember the cleansing mentioned in the upper portion, judgment for the living, the purification of the church. It says, to hear what the Lord has to say to His former servants, as the time of the cleansing approaches. We shall begin the study with the first 2 verses of the chapter. Isaiah 61 verse 1 and 2. Thus saith the Lord, the heaven is my throne, and the earth is my footstool. where is the house that ye build unto me? Look at, God is asking, where is the house that ye build unto me? Second, where is the place of my rest? For all those things hath mine hand made, and all those things have been, saith the Lord. But to this man will I look, even to him that is poor and of a contrite spirit, that trembleth at my word. By saying, the heaven is my throne, and the earth is my footstool, the Lord actually says that He has not forsaken the earth. That though His throne is in heaven, His feet are still on earth, that He is still interested in His people. But the questions, where is the house that ye build unto me, and where is the place of my rest, sadly reveal that the work has been neglected, that neither a house nor place of rest has been prepared for him. 1 TJ 45, page 12 and 13. That is the very message delivered by Stephen. You remember the Stephen sermon? I would like to read in Acts chapter 7. It says, verse 47, 48, and 49. But Solomon built him an house. So pointing to the Temple of Solomon. You remember the mountain in Micah chapter 4 verse 1? Let me read to you first, then go back to that reading. In 1SR page 173, it says, what is the meaning of the 4th chapter of Micah? But in the last days it shall come to pass that the mountain of the house of the Lord shall be established in the top of the mountains, and it shall be exalted above the hills, and people shall flow unto it. Micah 4 verse 1. The scripture is unmistakably clear that it was intended for the last days, for it reads, but in the last days it shall come to pass. It is also positive that this scripture would be fulfilled, for it says, it shall come to pass. It is an accepted fact that nearly all Bible students agree that the mountain is spoken of in this chapter is a symbol of God's church denomination, of which the temple built on Mount Moriah was a type. So Micah chapter 4 verse 1, that mountain represents the antitypical church, the antitypical Mount Moriah. Who built that temple in the type? Solomon, the son of David. Now, who will build the antitypical Mount Moriah? It must be also the antitypical son of David. And who is he? That is Jesus Christ, the branch. Zechariah 6 verse 12 and 13. The branch shall build the temple of the Lord. I would like to read verse 1 TG number 8 on page 27. It says, and speaking unto him, saying, thus speaketh the Lord of hosts, saying, behold, the man whose name is the branch, and he shall grow up out of his place, and he shall build the temple of the Lord. Joshua is well instructed that the burden and the ingenuity for building this spiritual temple, the antitypical Mount Moriah, belongs to him whose name is the branch. He is to grow out of his place. To him be the glory. He alone is to be exalted. He is to build the temple of the Lord. Although we have a separate subject, but I would like to read Acts chapter 7, verse 47, 48, and 49. But Solomon built him an house, howbeit the Most High dwelleth not in temples made with hands, as saith the prophet. Heaven is my throne, and earth is my footstool. What house will ye build me? In Isaiah 66 verse 1, it says, where is the house? But here in Acts chapter 7, it seems, if you will look at, it seems that Stephen was mistaken. Why is it that instead of where, he used the interrogative word what? What house will ye build me, saith the Lord? Or what is the place of my rest? So here we can easily understand that there are two things, where and what. Where is the house that ye build unto me? Where is the place of my rest? That is the divine command given by God to Moses, Moses, make me a sanctuary that I may dwell among you. But to repeat again, the divine purpose had been grossly misinterpreted and perverted. And this is what's happening today in the United States of America. History repeats of itself. The lying word saying, this is the temple of the Lord, this is the temple of the Lord. In the days of Jeremiah, they were pointing to the temple of Solomon. Did our Almighty God honor that temple? Yes, it was honored on the very day of the dedication of the temple. But what happened after Solomon died? Brothers and sisters, think it thoroughly. Jeremiah told them, do not believe such lying words. What are those lying words? Jeremiah 7 verse 4. Is it a lie to say that that is the temple of the Lord? No. But the lying words there is that it seems that they are trying to prove to the people that as long as the temple of the Lord are in existence, they are in the very place by which the temple of the Lord was established, they are always recognized by God as His people. And that is why, according to Consecrated Way to Christian Perfection, there is no solution but destruction. It says in Consecrated Way to Christian Perfection, page 72, for such a system, there was no remedy but destruction. And that's what's happening today in the United States of America. They boasted to their headquarters. Did God honor the headquarters that was established in Washington, D.C.? The answer is absolutely yes. It was honored by God, that headquarters that was established in Washington, D.C. through the guidance of the prophet, Sister White. But what happened to that headquarters? What is the divine purpose of the headquarters? It must be the dwelling place of the present truth. But what happened? The purpose had been perverted. And look at the Bidian today. They were so proud. Now we are on the very location by which BT Hotel established the headquarters, Waco, Texas. And all others boasted, no, we are in the Two Horn Beast, the very place by which God desired that His headquarters must be established. The answer is yes, absolutely yes. But what you did, you are following the footsteps of ancient Israel. What happened to the two literal, typical temples? Would you think America would exceed the sacredness in the Holy Land, in the Middle East? Mount Moriah and Mount Zion. But look at what happened to that temple that was established. Now let's go back to our subject, brothers and sisters. Whether you believe it or not, the truth will remain forever. That all the movements, Shepherd's Rod believer in the United States of America, they are the antitypical 7 brothers of David. You completely failed to finish the work that had been given to you by God. What is the work that had been given by God to the Seventh-day Adventist Church that they had not been able to finish? Numbering of the 144,000. Now in 1930, God no longer recognized the Seventh-day Adventist leadership as His leadership. Let us read again the statement. In track number 5, it says here, track number 5 on page 108. Thus the doctrine of the investigative judgment along with the doctrine of ingathering and numbering the 144,000 comprises the present truth committed to the Seventh-day Adventist denomination in 1844. And these two great truths up to the additional message of today, early writings, page 277, the Seventh-day Adventist denomination was to proclaim before many peoples and nations and tongues and kings. So what are the doctrine that had been committed by God to the Seventh-day Adventist Church? Investigative judgment, the ingathering of the first fruits, and the numbering of the 144,000. But according to 1 TG, number 42, page 4, it says, the conclusion then is that without this additional message, that is the Shepherd's Rod message, the Shepherd's Rod publications, the conclusion then is that without this additional message, the church will never reach her goal. What is the goal committed by God to the Seventh-day Adventist Church? To preach to many people, to many nations, to many tongues. Now, I would no longer, or in other words, there is no dispute to the fact that they never accepted the Shepherd's Rod message. then for sure, there is no possibility that they could be able to reach the goal, the divine commission committed unto them by God, because that is very plain in 1 TJ 42 page 4. Without the Shepherd's Rod publications, the Seventh-day Adventist denomination will never reach her goal. And since they completely rejected the Shepherd's Rod, then there is no possibility that they could reach their goal. Therefore, that divine task was committed by God to the 7 antitypical brothers of David. And what is the rule of that movement in 1930 to 1955? They are the one who provided all the material to finish that goal. Therefore, after all the material were completely given, then supposed to be those movements that arose after B.T. Hunter died, they will be the one to finish the goal given by God to the Seventh-day Adventist Church that had not been able to finish. And what is that goal? Found in Revelation 11 verse 1. Now let us read track number 5. Track number 5 on page 107, beginning from page 106. Chapter 11 verse 1. And there was given me a reed like unto a rod, and the angel stood saying, Rise and measure the temple of God, the altar, and them that worship therein. Though the last verse, verse 11 of chapter 10, brings us to the rise of the Seventh-day Adventist denomination and to the commission to go to many nations, it does not disclose the message which the denomination was to proclaim. So the 11th chapter, being a continuation of the 10th, must disclose it. Do not forget that the only verse in chapter 11, which is a part of the subject on chapter 10, is verse 1 and 2. Revelation 11, verse 1 and 2. According to our reading, right, in 2 TJ 14, page 16. Now, the Shepherd's Rod made it so plain that the divine commission that was given by God, I would like to apply first to the very first one, the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Prophesy again. Unto whom? To many peoples, to many nations, many tongues. And according to our reading, in track number 5, 106 and 107, the last verse of chapter 10 does not disclose what message that the Seventh-day Adventist Church was to proclaim to many nations, to many peoples, and many tongues. And that message is found in verse 1 of chapter 11, plainly indicating that the statement in 1 TJ 42, page 4, saying, the conclusion is that without the Shepherd's Rod message, it utters the impossibility to reach her goal. The statement says, and there was given me a reed like unto a rod. The mere fact that the angel commanded whoever that pronoun me indicates, God commanded, measure the temple, the altar, and the worshiper through the medium of that rod, the Shepherd's Rod message. What is the three doctrines that had been committed by God to the Seventh-day Adventist Church in our reading in track number 5? Do you remember? Investigative judgment, in gathering of the first fruits, although it did not really say first fruits, but the statement in gathering. The in gathering, so I would like to enumerate again in track number 5, 108. Does the doctrine of the investigative judgment, along with the doctrine of ingathering and numbering the 144,000, comprises the present truth committed to the Seventh-day Adventist denomination in 1844. And these two great truths, it seems contradictory to the first sentence because there are three: investigative judgment, the doctrine of ingathering, and the doctrine of numbering of the 144,000. But the two great truths mentioned here is pointing to the spirit of prophecy and the Shepherd's Rod publications. These two great truths, by which in the old symbolic code, it is called the former rain and the latter rain message. Now let us read again the old symbolic code. It says, 1 symbolic code number 5, page 5. 1 symbolic code number 5, page 5. As to the time of the former and the latter rain, the former, according to the meaning of the word preceding in time or place, must naturally precede the latter. Therefore, the desire of ages is correct. But for to the church before the Shepherd's Rod came, the experience of the apostles was the former rain, whereas to us at the present time, the former rain is the spirit of prophecy or the writings of Sister White, and the latter rain is the shepherd's rod publications. One symbolic code, number 5, page 5. In the mere fact that angel in Revelation 10, verse 1 and 2, according to the shepherd's rod, he is the angel that brought down the latter rain message. Now let us read again, 2TG number 15, page 3. That which is to be during the sixth trumpet while probation still lasts. So we need to focus to the statement, that which is to be during the sixth trumpet while probation still lasts. Revelation chapter 10 is a part of the description of the sixth trumpet. Because according to track number 5, page 79, the entire description of the sixth trumpet is from Revelation 9:14 and ended on Revelation 11:14. Therefore, chapter 10 is a part of the sixth trumpet. And that's the reason why here in 2TG 15:3, it says, that which is to be during the sixth trumpet while probation still lasts. And let us distinctly separate now the two periods of the sixth trumpet. And at the same time, the two periods of the sixth trumpet, which is the groundwork, and the two periods of the sixth trumpet, which is the particular object in view. And I know that if we are only willing and interested, God will not withhold unto us all the necessary information concerning this very important subject. Now, I would like to read first the statement here in 2TG 15, page 3. Whatever the occurrences mentioned here, it must be during the sixth trumpet while probation still lasts. Let's read 2TG 15, page 3. And I saw another mighty angel come down from heaven, clothed with a cloud, and a rainbow was upon his head, and his face was as it were the sun, and his feet as pillars of fire. Then it says, this angel has all the characteristics of a power that sends down the latter rain. What is the latter rain? The shepherd's rod publication, the latter rain message. So let us read again, brothers and sisters. Therefore, Revelation chapter 10, verse 1, the particular object in view cannot be William Miller. Because even former rain, the former rain is the writings of Sister White. But the movement of Miller ended in October 22, 1844 to SR page 97, by which at that time, there was no writings of Ellen G. White as yet that been in existence. So, the statement in track number 5, page 32, it was employed by God just to build the necessary foundation to build the future, the particular object in view. That through that picture, according to 1SR 226, portrayed with such photograph, portrayed with unmistakable evidence, the particular object in view. And I need to be very careful in explaining this subject to avoid any confusion. Now, to repeat again, our main subject is the subject on Revelation chapter 10. But Revelation chapter 10 is a part of the description under the sixth trumpets. Because the statement in track number 5, let us read again, track number 5, page 79. Track number 5 on page 79. With the 14th verse of Revelation 9 begins the description of the sixth trumpet. So Revelation 9 verse 14. And it ends with the 14th verse of Revelation 11, which announces the second woo, sixth trumpet is past, and behold, the third woo cometh quickly. Accordingly, its prophetic event recorded between Revelation 9:14 and 11:14 must find its fulfillment in the period of the sixth trumpet between the first and the second woos. So chapter 10 is included in the bracket between 9:14 and 11:14. But the boundary line is verse 2. And the commencement of another subject is verse 3. By which both of them had the same period of time. The other is 42 months. Verse 2. Verse 3 is 1,260 days. The 1,260 days in Revelation 11 verse 3 is not a part of the subject in chapter 10 because the subject on chapter 10 ended on verse 2, which is the 42 months. So the end part of the subject of chapter 10, which is the 42 months, is the commencement of the subject on chapter 11, verse 3 to verse 14, which is the 1,260 days. But we focus our attention first to chapter 10 and focusing our attention to that messenger in Revelation 10. Now, I would like to read again track number 6. Track number 6 on page 65. The Revelator also having been given a vision of these two movements recorded in chapters 10 and 11. Track number 6, page 65. How many movements? 2 movements on chapter 10 and chapter 11. But that is general term. The 2 movements in chapter 10 is the groundwork. That is the groundwork, the photograph. And what is the 2 movements in chapter 10? Millie Rice movement and the Seventh-day Adventist Church. So, the statement, there are 2 movements, chapter 10 and 11, let us distinctly separate the movement or the movements in chapter 10 and the movements on chapter 11. The movements on chapter 10, there is no shepherd's rod. The movements of William Miller and the movements of the Seventh-day Adventists. Although that movement of William Miller ended in 1844 before the shepherd's rod came in 1930, but the movement of the Seventh-day Adventist Church does not end when the rod came. But they never accepted the shepherd's rod, by which we already explained that there is no possibility that they could be able to finish the divine commission that was given unto them, to the Seventh-day Adventists, because without the shepherd's rod, it is impossible, according to 1 TG 42, page 4. Now, to repeat again, what are the 2 doctrines mentioned in track number 5108? The former rain message and the latter rain message. The 2 doctrines. The spirit of prophecy, which is the writings of Sister White, and the shepherd's rod publications. That is the 2 doctrines. What are the 3 messages, the 3 doctrines that had been given by God to the Seventh-day Adventist Church? Investigative judgment that pertains to the dead. Second, in gathering. Then third, the numbering of the 144,000. That is stated in track number 5108. But without the shepherd's rod, these 3 doctrines can never and will never be understood. Logically, Revelation 11 verse 1 must be applied after the entire shepherd's rod publications were completely written. Not at the time when it is just in process of writings. So in this study, we can easily discern that the 2 movements on chapter 11 must be the 7 antitypical brothers of David and the 8 church in the New Testament succession, the house of David. Both of them can be applied the statement, and there was given the shepherd's rod publications. But does the 7 antitypical brothers of David had been able to measure the temple, the altar, and the worshippers? That is the question. Had they been able? Now, let us proceed to our subject. I would like to read again track number 5. Yes, read page 110. Verse 2. What is Revelation 11 verse 2? The last verse of the subject on chapter 10. Then obvious it is, the only one who can be able to explain verse 2 must be the messenger in Revelation 10, the particular object in view. Now, I would like to read first B.T. Hotep on the card file of B.T. Hotep. So let us read 2TG number 15, page 10, on the card file of B.T. Hotep. It is possible that the 42 months of Revelation 11 verse 2. What is Revelation 11 verse 2? In 2TG 14:16, the last verse of chapter 10. Or meaning, the last verse concerning the subject on Revelation chapter 10. That is the last verse. And what is the statement in the shepherd's rod in track number 5100? The events to take place before the 7th angel begins to sound. Therefore, the climactic point before the 7th angel begins to sound is the revelation of Revelation 11 verse 2. Now let us read the testimony of the prophet. 2TG number 15, page 10. It is possible that the 42 months of Revelation 11 verse 2 occupy an entirely different period of time than the 1,260 days mentioned in Revelation chapter 13. For Jerusalem did not begin to be trodden underfoot in 538 AD, but was completely taken and destroyed in 70 AD. The holy city is still underfoot and will be until the Gentiles drive out the Gentiles as predicted in Zechariah chapter 1 verse 21. not any part of the city will be underfoot after then, at which time the kingdom, the church purified, is set up there. The truth concerning the 42 months during which time the holy city is trodden underfoot by the Gentiles is therefore not completely revealed and had better be left alone until God makes it known. 2TG number 15, page 10. So, that is very plain. That truth concerning 2TG 15, page 2, page 10, concerning Revelation 11, verse 2, was not yet revealed in the days of B.T. Hadad. But the Bible cannot be mistaken. Through that rod, that angel, that messenger could be able to measure the temple, the altar, and the worshiper. Or in other words, the shepherd's rod publications, all the necessary information was completely given in the shepherd's rod publications. And to repeat again and again the statement in the Great Controversy 344, saying even the prophets who had been favored by God with a special illumination of the Spirit did not fully comprehend the true import of the meaning of the messages that had been given. It must be unfolded from time to time. So the situation of Daniel and John the Revelator is the same with Sister White and B.T. Hadad. That it doesn't mean that they, the writers themselves, had been able to explain all the things that they had written. There are many things that were already recorded in the Shepherd's Rod publications by which the writer himself had not been able to completely understand those messages that had been written in the Shepherd's Rod publications. But without any doubts, 100% the Shepherd's Rod publications are sufficient enough. All the necessary information is already recorded in the Shepherd's Rod publications. And I think that is the same with the statement. The Shepherd's Rod says that all the material, let me see if we could find that statement, is already waiting. That is in timely greetings. So, 1TG. It says here, in 1TG number 5, page 12, the material that is to lighten the earth with the glory of the angel, the loud cry, is already and waiting. This statement in reality is applied in our days rather than in the days of B.T. Hadad, because that material is the Shepherd's Rod publications, and it was not completely finished not until in 1955. So all the necessary information and the material is ready. Now here in 11 Symbolic Code, number 8, page 3 and 4. The question has frequently come to Mount Carmel since the subject of the 42 months was explained in the Symbolic Code, asking why the code has never said when the 42 months started and when the great earthquake of Revelation 11 is to take place. Therefore, to help clarify these questions and to emphasize the fact that God has given us sufficient information to know the seasons, the study of Jonah and the people of God, which Brother Hadad delivered June 10, 1944, has been selected for this month's issue of the Symbolic Code. It is true that just as the stork in the heaven knoweth her appointed times, and the turtle and the crane and the swallow observe the time of their coming, Jeremiah 8, verse 7, God has mercifully made available to His people the knowledge of the judgment of the Lord for this age, if they are willing to know it. He has not, however, seen fit at this time to make known the day and the hour. He has told His people enough that they certainly need not be caught unawares as one being surprised by an unexpected thief. God has revealed the 42-month prophecy to us for no other purpose than that we be made to realize that we individually have no time to lose in cleaning ourselves up with the provisions He has given us, no time to lose in getting our divinely appointed work done in the church, and no time to lose in setting our own houses in order. When God's people need more information for their own good, the Lord will not withhold it from them. 11 Symbolic Code number 8, page 3 and 4. So the statement says, God gave us sufficient information, and that is the Shepherd's Rod publications, and plainly illustrated in the Bible. Given me a reed like unto a rod, that through that medium, the Shepherd's Rod publications, God commanded the messenger, measure the temple, measure the altar, and measure the worshipers. Plainly indicating that the Shepherd's Rod publications are sufficient enough to fulfill, to obey the divine commission, the divine command, measure the temple, that through the Shepherd's Rod publications, the temple, the altar, and the worshipers will be measured. But it is not literal because we are studying symbolical prophecy. And the statement in 11 Symbolic Code, number 8, page 3, completely shows that such understanding, such revelation must be bestowed by God. Of course, it must be cometh from God because present truth comes only from God, right? That is on Symbolic Code. 11 Symbolic Code, number 3, page 5. Present truth comes only from God, or divine understanding cometh only from God. But the statement in 11 Symbolic Code, number 8, page 3 and 4, can be easily understood, saying that the divine purpose why God revealed the 42 months prophecy, first, so that we will not waste any time in cleaning up ourselves with the provision provided by God unto us. Second, to get our divinely appointed work done in the church. Third, to set our own houses in order. These three divine purposes plainly indicating that such revelation of the 42 months prophecy must be during provisionary time. For if it is revealed after probation closes, then the divine purpose can never be carried out. It is nothing but mockery then, out of value. Therefore, such revelation must be during provisionary time. Now, if we could be able now to explain everything, then there is no other safe conclusion that such divinely appointed time has now arrived. Now, let us read again 2TG. 2TG number 15. 2TG number 15 on page 4. You know that man naturally starts out with his right foot. Now, since the angel's right foot was upon the sea, and his left foot upon the land, the symbolism shows that he starts out on the sea, the province of Daniel's beast, Daniel chapter 7. Then on earth, the province of the two-horned beast, Revelation 13, verse 10 to 18. His work therefore starts in the old country and should include the very first truth that was disclosed from the book of Daniel, and in all his message and power proved to be worldwide, land and sea. But that is not the only significance. That significance is applied to the groundwork. But the final application, brothers and sisters, since the Shepherd declared clearly in 2TG number 8 on page 20, saying, the servants of God shall certainly gather all their brethren out of all nations. That is verse 20. Indeed so, for the legs of the gospel are the legs of the people who proclaim it. 2TG number 8, page 20. The gospel represent the legs. So we can easily understand Nahum 1 verse 15, behold the feet of him. We know, of course, feet is a part of the legs. So that divine command, behold the gospel that had been proclaimed but by that messenger. So the two legs represents two gospels. The gospel that is proclaimed by William Miller and the gospel that will be proclaimed by that last messenger in Revelation chapter 10, by which unto him was bestowed by God the final outpouring of the Lateran message, by which cannot be applied to William Miller. What is the Lateran message? 1 Symbolic Code, page 5, the shepherd's rod, by which the climactic point, as stated in this study in Revelation 11 verse 1, is measuring the temple, measuring the altar, and the worshipers through that rod that had been given by God to that messenger. And historically, there are only two divine messengers that had been given the rod. First, Moses. Then when Moses died, it was passed into the hands of Joshua. Therefore, there is no doubt the perfect fulfillment of Revelation 11, verse 1, must be the second section of the Exodus under the leadership of antitypical Joshua. Now, let us go back again to the reading in track number 5, 110. Track number 5, page 110. Revelation 11, verse 2. To repeat again, verse 2 is the last verse in the subject of chapter 10. Or verse 2 is the last event before the seventh angel will begin to sound. Right? Because we already read in track number 5, 100, that before the seventh angel begins to sound, the subject on Revelation chapter 10 must be fulfilled first. And what is the subject on chapter 10? 2 TG 14:16 ended on Revelation 11 verse 2. So, let us read track number 5, 110 and 111. But the court which is without the temple, leave out, and measure it not, for it is given unto the Gentiles, and the holy city shall they tread underfoot 40 and 2 months. 40 and 2 months. It was given unto the Gentiles. Now let us read the statement. It says, but why leave out the court? Why not measure it also? For since it is a part of the building, it too must be symbolical of saints. Obviously, because it represents the great multitude which no man could number, measure, of all nations and kindreds and people and tongues. Revelation 7 verse 9, the last who come from among the Gentiles. The court, in other words, is symbolical of the immeasurable, innumerable harvest of second fruits brought in after the measurable, numerable harvest of first fruits, the 144,000. It is not measured, meaning investigated, because it represents those among whom there are no bad to be cast out, for they are gathered in after the cleansing of the heavenly temple, Daniel 8 verse 14, after the judgment of the dead, after the separation of the bad from among the good in the church as illustrated by the parable of the net, Matthew 13 verse 47 and 48. And there are those who by name, my people, Revelation 18 verse 4, are called to come out of Babylon, and who with no unclean among them. Isaiah 52 verse 1, come into the already purified and living church of God. Track number 5, 110 and 111. So what does it mean by measured? Investigate. Investigate. Because the statement, do not measure, they will no longer be investigated. Why? Because the Gentiles mentioned in Revelation 7 verse 9 is the great multitude which no man could number. In Revelation 7 verse 9. That is the Gentiles mentioned in Revelation 11 verse 2. And they will no longer be measured, meaning investigated, not in the most holy place, because all the sins of the righteous must be blotted out after the investigation. The statement in the Great Controversy 485, it is impossible to blot out the sins before the investigation. So, the great multitude must be investigated in the most holy place. Otherwise, their sins cannot be blotted out. But such investigation, by which they will no longer to pass, must be in the holy place, by which such investigation is blotting out of names. And since at the time when they will be converted to the message, there will be no more wicked to join the church, there will be no more wicked names to be inscribed in the Lamb's Book of Life, then there is no more necessity for such investigation, because there will be no names to be blotted out. Or in other words, the inscription of the names of the great multitude commence after all the names of the wicked in the Lamb's Book of Life will be completely blotted out. Then, after that, when the books were completely cleansed, then that is the time by which the names of the constituent of the great multitude will begin to be inscribed, by which such inscription is after the cleansing of the heavenly temple. Therefore, it points out to the last day of atonement. Now, let us read again. Track number 3 on page 73 and page 74. Being the day of atonement in type for both the dead and the living, this service of the earthly tabernacle therefore projects the day of atonement in its antitype, the cleansing of the sanctuary in heaven from unworthy names in the books, and the cleansing of the church on earth from its unconverted and unstable members, thus bringing the time of clean books, clean church, and clean people. Track number 3, page 73 and page 74. So, after that Day of Atonement, October 10, because Day of Atonement is October 10. After that final Day of Atonement, bringing the time of clean books. Therefore, October 11, brothers and sisters, that is the time by which the books were completely cleansed. And that is the time when the names of the living saints, the Gentiles, in Revelation 11 verse 2, which is the great multitude of Revelation 7 verse 9, will be inscribed into that book. Now, I would like to connect our study to the statement in The Consecrated Way to Christian Perfection. Now let's read again. Page 100, 111, and 112. After the 490 years of the limitation upon the Jews and Jerusalem, there yet remained 1,810 years to the Gentiles. Let us read again the admonition given by Apostle Paul in Romans 11, verse 25. It says, "For I would not, brethren, that you should be ignorant of this mystery, lest you should be wise in your own conceits, that blindness in part is happened to Israel until the fullness of the Gentiles be come in." After the fullness of the Gentiles be come in. Now here, it says there were 1,810 years that had been given by God to the Gentiles. Let us read. Consecrated Way to Christian Perfection, 111 and 112. After the 490 years of the limitation upon the Jews and Jerusalem, there yet remain 1,810 years to the Gentiles. This period beginning as we have found in the fall of AD 34. So, that is very plain. October 16, 34 AD, the commencement of the 1,810 years alluded to the Gentiles. Reaches inevitably to the fall of AD 1844 and marks that date as the expiration of the 2,300 years. So it ended in October 22, 1844. And at that time, upon the word of the wonderful numberer in Daniel 8 verse 14, then shall the sanctuary be cleansed. At that time, when? On that day of atonement. And it is a little deep study. In 1844, also was the very time of the days of the voice of the seventh angel, when he shall begin to sound, and when the mystery of God should be finished, as yet declared to his servants, the prophets. At that time, there will be broken up the horror of great darkness, by which the mystery of iniquity had hid from ages and generations the mystery of God. At that time, the sanctuary and the true tabernacle and the truth of it would be lifted up from the ground where the man of sin had cast them down and stamped upon them, and would be exalted to the heaven where they belong, and whence they will shine forth in such light as that the earth shall be lightened with the glory. At that time, the transcendent truth of the priesthood and ministry of Christ would be rescued from the oblivion to which the abomination and transgression of desolation had consigned it, and would once more and forever stand in its true and heavenly place in the faith of the church, accomplishing in every true believer that perfection which is the eternal purpose of God, which He purposed in Christ Jesus our Lord. Consecrated Way to Christian Perfection, 111 and 112. That two paragraphs, a lot of prophecy had been mentioned, and more particularly to the exceeding great horn and the daily and the sanctuary. Although that is not our main subject here, because our main subject is concerning the subject on Revelation chapter 10. What is the subject on Revelation chapter 10? There are two doctrines. And what are those two doctrines? The former rain message and the latter rain message. What is the former rain message? The writings of Sister White. What is the latter rain message? The Shepherd's Rod publications. But what is the three doctrines given by God to the Seventh-day Adventist Church? Investigative, ingathering, and the numbering of the 144,000. Thus, the numbering of the 144,000 that was given by God to the Seventh-day Adventist Church, is it the antitype or the type? Now, let us read first the General Conference Special on page 39. General Conference Special, page 39. The judgment for the dead, furthermore, is not the message of the great and dreadful day. It does not even touch on the prophecies of the great and dreadful day of the Lord. I fully believe that the climactic point or the particular object in view concerning the great and dreadful day of the Lord is concerning the living saints, the 144,000 in spiritual Israel. If the message that was entrusted by God to the Seventh-day Adventist Church is the judgment for the dead, by which it does not even touch the message of the great and dreadful day, without any doubts, such understanding concerning the proceedings of the 144,000 can never be found in the writings of Sister White. Because the statement, it does not even touch. Obviously, therefore, the 144,000 supposed to be the message that was committed to the Seventh-day Adventist Church must be the type, not the antitype. And there is no possibility that they could understand such message without the Shepherd's Rod publications, but they reject the Shepherd's Rod. Then no more hope. Now let us focus our attention among us Shepherd's Rod believers. Let us go back first to Consecrated Way to Christian Perfection, 111, 112. Whether we accept it or not, whether we believe it or not, the illustration in the type cannot be mistaken. That the 7 antitypical brothers of David completely failed. I would like to say, supposed to be they are the one to finish the unfinished work of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, which the Shepherd's Rod called it the fainter cry, right? In answerer number 1. Is it page 83? The fainter cry. The fainter cry is addressed to many nations, but the loud cry is addressed to all nations. But even in the period of the fainter cry, the divine commission that was given by God to the Seventh-day Adventist Church, the Seventh-day Adventist Church failed to finish the divine commission that was committed to them. Answerer number 1, page 83. Moreover, the abominations in the church have not only kept back the loud cry, but have also even silenced the fainter cry which precedes it. Indeed, the angel of the church of the Laodiceans, being unfit even to finish the proclamation of the message in its fainter cry, they must be altogether unfit to proclaim it in the loud cry. But both of them, not only the typical Laodiceans, who are they, the typical Laodiceans? Antitypical soul. Who are they, the antitypical Laodiceans? The 7 antitypical brothers of David. Whoever that 7 antitypical brothers of David, number 7 indicates completeness and does not exclude any. All must be included. An apology, you cannot change the truth. It points out to all the Davidian in the two-horned beast domain, in the vineyard. They completely failed to finish the work. If someone will say, we have been able to finish, then what is the measurement of the temple? What is the measurement of the altar? And what is the measurement of the worshipers? And what is Revelation 11 verse 2? Can any Davidian explain it clearly? Revelation 11 verse 2, the climactic point, the climactic event of the subject on chapter 10, before the 7th angel will begin to sound. So it's very important. Now let us go back again to Consecrated Way to Christian Perfection. What is the connection of the 1,810 years that had been given to the Gentiles and the 42 months in Revelation 11 verse 2? 42 months and the other is 1,810 years. What is the focal point of Revelation 11 verse 2? The commencement of the ingathering of the second fruits. Revelation 7 verse 9. If we will connect our subject to the 12 figurative months, track number 5, page 74, leaving 1 month for the ingathering of the great multitude. So one subject is closely connected to each other. The subject of the 12 figurative months answer the subject of Revelation 11 verse 2. Now let us go back again to Revelation 11 verse 2. The particular object in view is the commencement of the ingathering of the second fruits. When would be, first of all, the ingathering is pointing to the ingathering in the Lamb's Book of Life. The first aspect of the ingathering, the inscription of their names in the Lamb's Book of Life. Do not forget, in track number 5, page 34, that the main prophetic event concerning the subject of the trumpets takes place in heaven. The first aspect of the judgment, bookwork transaction. Answerer number 5, page 30. Of course, the particular object in view is in the heavenly sanctuary because measure the temple, the altar. Both of them are two inanimate objects by which point to the dead saints according to track number 5, 109. Those who died under the first 5 seals and those who died under the 6th seal. Or in other words, the first 6 seals, which is intended to the saints that will experience grave and resurrection according to SR 202. In this study, in Revelation 11 verse 1, is divided into 2 classes, the temple and the altar. The temple and the altar. And concerning the judgment that pertains to the dead, The Shepherd's Rod made it so plain in White House Recruiter, page 20. As the cleansing of the sanctuary in behalf of the dead is necessarily purely a book transaction, that is the reason for its taking place only in the heavenly sanctuary. Only in the heavenly sanctuary. But it cannot be construed that the judgment that pertains to the living, there is no bookwork transaction. That is the first aspect of the judgment, is stated in Answerer number 5, page 30. This is the first aspect of the judgment, and being only a bookwork, a work that does not disturb either the dead in the graves or the living in the church. It takes place in heaven. Now let's go back again to the explanation given by Alonzo Jones. 1,810 years. In Daniel 9 verse 24, the 70 weeks are symbolical, and that is pointing to 490 years. 70 times 7 equals 490. So the 70 weeks are symbolical. The same with the 1,810 years, which alluded to the Gentiles in connection with our subject in Revelation 11 verse 2. That is symbolical. What does it mean? I would like to illustrate to you so that you could understand. So, this 1,810 years, 1,810, this is symbolical. Number 18 points to the weaving, which is the type. April, I would like to put here, April 31 AD. Then Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. But I would like to put here, April 18. This is the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Then 10 points out to the last day of atonement. October 10, the last day of atonement. The answer of Revelation 11 verse 2, that after this last day of atonement, October 11, then the commencement of the inscription of the names of the great multitude, which no man could number. Revelation 7 verse 9. And we will explain it carefully on our next episode. So, the 1,810 years, that is symbolical. And answer the symbolical 42 months. 42 months is symbolical because that is a part of the trumpet study. So, does the 42 months mean 1,260 years? No, it could not be 1,260 years. The Shepherd's Rod never teaches that that is 1,260 years. Is it 1,260 days? Then it is literal, no longer symbolical. The Shepherd's Rod says, if every term is not symbolical, then how could we be able to differentiate those which are and those which are not? But for sure, it could not be symbolical by which one day equivalent to 1 year. Otherwise, we'll be saying that the loud cry to the great multitude will be 1,260 years. But if you will say that that is literal, then how could it be the divine principle will be followed? That it must be, every term must be symbolical. So we have symbolical 1,810 years. But if we will apply that to literal, the groundwork, who are they? The Gentiles. They are they who will be resurrected on the general resurrection. Those who will be resurrected on the general resurrection. So let's distinctly separate. Those who will be resurrected on the general resurrection, there are two resurrections. The voice of God the Father and the voice of the Son of God. And Sister White called it great multitude. So the Gentile mentioned is the great multitude that will be resurrected at the second visible coming. But the Gentile mentioned in Revelation 11 verse 2 is the great multitude in Revelation 7 verse 9. The saints that will no longer to taste death. But to repeat again, 42 months, Revelation 11:2 being symbolical, therefore 1,810 years in connection with the symbolical 42 months, it must also be symbolical. 18 represents to the waving. What is the message that had been given by God to the Seventh-day Adventist Church? First, investigative judgment. Commenced in October 22, 1844. The second, ingathering. When does the ingathering commence? It must be after the sheep is offered. And that is April 18. 1844 in Bible calendar, but in Gregorian, that is April 27, 1845. Then commenced the ingathering. In April 18, 1844, commenced the ingathering of the first fruits. But what first fruit? The type, the living type. Those that had been resurrected by Jesus Christ at 9 a.m. And it is closely connected to the subject 40 days because that names of the first fruits, which is the living type, their names had been inscribed into the book of the living from April 18, 1844 to May 27, 1844, by which those messages can never be understood without the shepherd's rod, according to tract number 5108. Therefore, there is no possibility that they could understand the vision of Sister White. Why is it that God showed vision to Sister White, the ingathering of the first fruits, the 144,000 in 1844? Why? Because on that very year, the inscription of the names of the living saints, which is the type, the living type, according to the shepherd's rod, I would like to read, commenced on that year. Tract number 3, it says here, page 79 and page 80. But as those who arose with Christ ascended with him as trophies of his victory over death and the grave, they thereby become a living type. It did not say a living antitype. No. They thereby became a living type, and thus the waveship of the living. So, why is it that is the type? Because they were granted immortality before their sins were blotted out. Pointing to the saints, 144,000 spiritual Israel, they will be granted immortality before their sins were blotted out. Although that is another subject. That is the subject, the waveship and the wave lobes. But what I'm trying to emphasize at this time is that, brothers and sisters, the three doctrines, tract number 5108. First, October 22, 1844, the commencement. That is the only one that had been understood by the Seventh-day Adventist Church. But these two, the remaining two, can never be understood without the shepherd's rod. The Seventh-day Adventist Church knew that October 22, 1844 is the commencement of the investigative judgment. But how about the second doctrine, the ingathering, the inscription of the names of the saints into the book of the living? They never understood that subject. And the writings of Sister White do not even touch. It must be found in the shepherd's rod. Therefore, it must be April 18, 1844, which answers to the symbolical 1,810 years. 18 meaning April 18, 1844. 10 pointing to the last day of atonement, which answers the symbolical 42 months. That number 10 is pointing to October 10, the last and the final day of atonement. We will continue the subject on our next episode. May the good Lord bless you, brothers and sisters. Thank you very much for listening. Have a beautiful, wonderful evening.